الله أكبر.
حي على الصلاة.
الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
حي على الصلاة.
الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
حي على الصلاة.
الله أكبر.
Islam family. First and foremost, I rise, giving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the highest of praise and the highest of honors to his holy and divine prophet, Noble Ali. I extend those honors to the harbinger, the forerunner, the honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who did warn and stir the nations. I give honors to the Moorish American standard, the red flag with the green five-pointed star representing the highest principles that are known to man, which is love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And I also acknowledge the United Mercantile Trading Banner, also known as the American flag. I give honors to all Moorish Americans, both past, present, and future, who strive to promote and perpetuate this Moorish divine and national movement by way of the Prophet's holy instructions and divine laws. And I give honors to all Asiatic organizations, whether it be Pan-African, so on and so forth, who also work diligently to promote the interests of the Asiatics and the peoples born of indigenous descent in America. I give honors to Temple Number 19, the Office of the Grand Governor, the Lieutenant Grand Governor, the admin staff, and the mighty M19s who keep the peace. Last but certainly, I give honors to you, the ills and babes and visitors in the sacred groves, because when man honors man, he honors that Father God, Allah. Islam? All praises are due to Allah for having us here on another holy day evening so that we may continue to build on things that make us better citizens. Islam? Now, one of the sisters caught me on the phone because I couldn't catch this verse that was in my mind. So give me a second, because I want to make sure that I quote the Prophet correctly. Because it's very interesting that we were all saying, we're all giving measures on different spectrums of the same thing. And it's a wonderful and it's a beautiful thing. So today, I'm really just going to add my portion, because it's obvious that the Elohim, or the spirit of Elohim, is with us this evening. Instead of having to remember it. All right, here we go. All right, so it was a couple of words I heard. There was a couple of things I heard. Chapter 2, Moorish Holy Quran, verse 22. And I heard it in so many words and so many variations today. And it reads, "Now love cannot manifest until its way has been prepared, and naught can rend the rock and bring down lofty hills and fill the valleys up, thus prepare the way of purity." What does the word rend mean? Tear up, to break up, to break apart. And so I'm not cherry picking, as one would say, using the Passean text. Medino is talking to Mary and Elizabeth about their sons. And Medino is giving reference to the concepts of love and purity. Of purity and love, rather. And basically what he's saying in this specific verse is that, again, love cannot manifest its way until purity has paved the way. So in other words, we have this thing, we have this rock, this solid rock. And if we're familiar with our Moorish Holy Quran, there's another situation where a rock has been rendered or has been split open for love to be open. Y'all remember those chapters? All right. But getting back to this specific chapter, is saying that something must be struck there has to be a tearing apart of a solid structure for it to be rebuilt. All right. And contrary to popular belief, the ideal of destruction is a part of life. Because in order for things to be reborn, it has to be torn down. It has to go through a period of death. And again, if we are astute in our most holy Quran, it talks about what is complete death, what is purity, or how do we go about determining the purity or reaching that form of purity to be reborn. How many of us are familiar with the seal of Atlanta, Georgia? Okay, I highly suggest that you all research the seal of Atlanta, Georgia. You'll have to forgive me. I don't remember the indigenous name of Atlanta, Georgia, but I do know the name before Atlanta. It was called Terminus, because this was one of the major railways of the frontier at that time. But anyway, long story short, Atlanta was one of the Georgia was one of the Confederate states, Atlanta being one of the cities in the Confederate States, or Terminus rather. And during the Civil War, the Union burned the city down. And with the city being burned down, the city had to rebuild. Thus, when you look at the seal of Atlanta, there's a phoenix coming from the ashes. And we all know that the phoenix is a symbol of rebirth. It's a symbol of being reborn, of starting anew, from the ashes, from death, from a cinder. All right. So it comes a time, in the Sister Lamadia, she posed the question, and what was a good bill, Sister Sasha, she talked about how you have this miner that's been pretty much digging in the wrong area. And he's been coming up with nothing. But what's interesting about this is that he's been digging, it's safe to presume that he's been digging in the same area a multitude of times and expecting to pull up fortune. What is that called? Insanity. It's called insanity, man. Being insane is an attribute of European psychology that we've been taught. Sister Lamadia and Sister Sajda had given a powerful dialogue, because again, we as Asiatics, the majority of us, we have this ideal of how we are to live our lives. And it's not conducive with who we are as a people. And we constantly find ourselves in a perpetual vicious cycle. We're not in a position to leave a legacy for our children, not as a majority. We're not in a position as a majority, as a collective, to benefit from our labors labors while we're here. But a big part of that is because it's something that we're doing wrong. Something is not clicking in our minds, just as the sisters were dialoguing about. We think we know, but we have no idea of what happiness is. Man, that's not a shot at just the Asiatics. That's a shot at the Moorish Americans as well. During the month of Ramadan, during the month of Ramadan, we're having a Quranic studies class. And last week we talked about the path. We talked about the sunnah. I don't have a marker because I'm really labor to not keep you that long. But the word sunnah means habit, means learned or way or method, if you will. And what it's in reference to is that the mu'minun, the faithful that were following the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, they wanted to be as close to Allah as the Prophet. And they believed that the best way to get in the faith, get to Jannah, is to imitate their Prophet. So what happened is when the Prophet Muhammad had veiled the form, they said it was a way that he went about doing a certain thing. It was a way that he went about praying. It was a way that he walked in a room or a house. It was a way that he made wudu, ablution. It was a way that he spoke. It was the way he did this and the way he did that. That is his habitat, or the path that he took to get closer to Allah. And so what happens is that you get a good majority of the Islamic community that follow that path, that follow that sunnah. Thus, they're called Sunni. And these people, they go so far as to imitate their Prophet as they are to dress like him. They are to literally strive to look like him. It is said, and I'm not going to go too deep into his description, is that the Prophet Muhammad, he had braids come down his head, come down his back. He had a full beard, no mustache, and he was, when he received the revelation, he was 40 years old. So he was at the time when he was getting some gray in his hair. So he would have tints of orange dye to mask up the grayness in his hair. Now, I want you all, with that description, I want you all to pay attention if you all are in certain Sunni circles and to see those attributes. The contention that I have with that is, for one, it's important that we establish our own relationship with Father God Allah. It's important, as our prophet stated before, to know thyself and thy Father God Allah. Your best relationship with Allah will determine how you establish your heaven on earth and how you will attain your happiness when you veil the form. Your works and your deeds, your thoughts, your works and your deeds will determine your happiness. So you have to think to yourself, brothers and sisters, what ultimately makes you happy? And what should be involved in what makes you happy is how it affects your circle of people. So if you're happy, if you're building up finance, then your circle should be building up finance. So not only you should be happy, but your brothers and sisters should be happy. All right? Because if you're only the only one that came up with this formula of attaining finance, and nobody else can adapt the formula or do the same thing, or you're not getting anybody involved so you can share in the spoils, then what is in your heart? Is there a form of sincerity in your heart to want for your brother or sister what you want for yourself? I had a conversation with one of the faithful earlier this week, And, you know, he had mentioned that, he said, once I get things popping off the way that I want to, you know, I'm gonna do what I can for the temple. And I said, honest to you, brother, but I want you to think back into your lessons and what the prophet said. And to paraphrase, in this pamphlet it said, think of what you have right now and what you can do to contribute to this movement. Don't think about what I can do once I get to a certain place financially, or when I get to a certain place mentally, you know, in my mindset, spiritually, so on and so forth. What is it that I've learned right now and that can attain and apply? What is it, what resources do I have at this moment that I know without a shadow of a doubt I can contribute to the temple? And let's just start from there. That's the mindset that we should have, a collective mindset that we should have as a temple, as a group of people. All right? But that ideal of rending the rock, that's a demonstration of the hammer and the axe as well. To drive home the truth. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, that I wanted to add on to, was gratitude and sincerity. Because as a brother Khalid, one of our M19s had mentioned, he said gratitude is that showing of appreciation, where you're giving you're letting someone know that you appreciate what they've done. How do you exhibit appreciation? If someone loans you some finance, and you know, for whatever, you do one or two things. You do what you say you're gonna do with the finance, and once you say what you do with your finance, you pay them back. And I know there's this saying that goes that, you know, if you loan money, don't expect to give it back. I get that. But minus that measure, that person sacrificed a portion of their finance to make sure that you were good. So even if you call them and talk to them and show them appreciation, and you know, say, okay, brother, you know, this is what I did. I appreciate that. This is going to be the next step in my journey, so on and so forth. Sister, I appreciate what you did. This is what I've done. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, you have to be over the top, because that person didn't have to do that for you. And you have to take that blessing and you have to pay it forward. So we can't be hoarders of blessings. Just like we can't be hoarders of information and knowledge. We can't be those that just take information and put it in our mental, and then, you know, we get to the point where we think that we're so deep that nobody can comprehend what we're saying. That's the insufficiency of knowledge. Because if you can't take that information and apply it and talk and express to someone what you know, in hopes that, you know, what you're imparting on them is going to make you a better person, then that knowledge is for naught. So the question that I ask you today, family, is how are we showing appreciation to our prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for returning back to us our divine creed and our nationality? Like, literally, what are we doing? Are we just showing up on Fridays and Sundays? You know, are we debating or discussing things on Facebook? Are we just telling our people that they're not Negro, black, and colored, and not explaining to them the importance of what nationality means and how that is tied to your salvation, that is tied to your happiness? Are we informing our people out there in the cares of the world that their condition can be better? Because the prophet said, if you even think that your condition can be better, then join the Moorish Science Temple of America. But how many people out there think their condition can be better? thought about you. Sister Lamadi, I have more literature. Sister gave a powerful measure on sincerity. And she said something that just jumped out at me, like a proverbial Voltron cat. Just jumped out at me. She said that why your and I'm paraphrasing this, so you're gonna have to forgive me, but if your heart is not pure, how can you prepare the way? How is it ready to receive love from Allah? How are you ready to receive love from your brother or your sister? And it says in this Moorish literature, the article, think this over, you Moors. All sheiks, grand sheiks, must prepare for the Prophet before he comes to visit him. Must see to it that all is clean and in perfection as far as comfort is possible, or otherwise don't arrange to have his presence. You spoke to me, sis. Islam. And then, in addition to that, we know also in caveat emptor. So Moors are men, upright, independent, and fearless, care for their loved ones, follow their prophet to a destination which is not uncertain or unknown. We in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we have what you call our own sunnah. Our prophet makes it clear in the article the prophet has spoken. And even though it says all governors, grand sheiks, and heads officials that guide any body of Moors, of any temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America, this applies to you as well. Why? Because you all, at least in this room, have attended Sunday school. And the prophet said that out of the Sunday school comes what? The guidance of the nation. It reads in the prophet has spoken, he or she must be of good moral standard and a heart of love, and their works must be of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. They are to imitate the prophet in speech and teaching in any said temple. Islam? Again, they are to imitate the prophet in speech and in teaching in a said temple. All right? That doesn't mean that we necessarily have to dress verbatim as the prophet. But you have members and grand sheiks and other officials, they dress because in this generation, we haven't seen the prophet. Let me rephrase that. We haven't seen the prophet in the flesh.
Islam.
We haven't seen the prophet in the flesh. So to dress as the prophet did, on top of imitating the prophet in speech and in teaching, you get an idea of that standard that's before you in the divine constitution and bylaws. And not just a static form. You get to see it in action. It's a demonstration of the prophet made manifest, the spirit of the message of the prophet made manifest. Islam?
Islam.
In closing, going back into the spirit of Ramadan, you have in Surah Al-Fatiha this word mustaqim. All right? And what's interesting about mustaqim is that it comes from the term qima or qam or qama. And that means to be straight, to be and it's when you have that mu or that ma, that's like of the people. Or so basically the people of the straight path. Or those of the straight path. For those that perform the salah, one of the postures is the qiyam. Straight up and standard. It means that you value who you are when you go deeper into the definition. We, in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we want to be on that Surat al-Mustaqim. That term, Surat, that's path. So we want to be in the path, we want to be on that same path of those who are straight, that are upright. Do we not? It also shares the same three or tri-letter root of nation or group of people. So when we talk about how we want to be on that straight path, we want to be in that number. We want to be in that circle of people that follow that path of righteousness. That path of striving towards righteousness. Again, going back to, Surat al-Ansar, or the help. It says, when will the help of Allah come? It says the help of Allah will come when those that follow the deen of Allah are one. Islam? So this ideal and this concept of happiness and success, again, contrary to popular belief, is very simple. Surround yourself with people of like minds. Humble yourself. All of us want to be leaders, but how many of us are willing to be followers? How many of us are devoted to demonstrating the degree of the servant or the subject? Because there's degrees behind it. Sometimes you may not want to be in that echelon of leaders, because that's a whole different responsibility. We think we want the clout, we want the station, and that's about it. But how many of us really want that responsibility? Or we think because we've earned that station or that responsibility, now we can delegate it. There's a difference between leading and delegating. Part of being a leader is teaching those people to replace you, because you're going to move on to bigger and better things. So when you have this torch and you're guiding them through the darkness, you should be teaching them how to put this torch together. Because there's going to come a point with you as a leader, as a teacher, you're going to part ways. So have you given them the tools to have that same light, or are you going to lead them down that path to darkness? When it's time for you all to part ways, are they going to show gratitude? Are you going to show gratitude for them for trusting you? For trusting you to be a leader? Because that is a heavy responsibility, that someone says, okay, I'm going to follow this person. This person, I have chosen this person to be the leader, and I put 100% trust in that person. There is a level of gratitude that you should show for that person even believing in who you are, because they didn't have to do it. Again, those are responsibilities that we should all have, that we should all consider in this path. But again, the underlining to drive it home is to show gratitude for our Prophet. And the best way to show gratitude for our Prophet is to assure that we're well astute in the lessons, that we're imitating the Prophet the best way we can, and being the best example of our Prophet. Because they're looking at you. When you open your mouth and say you're a Moorish American, right then and there, you're representing Allah, and you're representing the Prophet, and you're representing this Moorish Divine and National Movement. So how are you representing that? How are you talking to that person? You don't have to be a rigid and a drawl person. Are you speaking with love? Do you have that purity and that spirit of sincerity when you're talking, or are you just talking to, just to give somebody some knowledge? The brother spoke on that as well. He said, don't take information from someone that's haughty or showing hubris in their speech. And that's more than consistent in the conscious community, unfortunately. So, with that, family, I want us to strive to do better. We have to. It comes a time where we have to force ourselves to take the step to faith. It has to come a time where we have to say, okay, well, I no longer perhaps think this is true. Because if you still at the point where you perhaps think this is true, then maybe you need to take a step back down all the way. Because what else has to be proven to you? And think about this. If you're looking for this big thing to happen, consider that you may be the one that has to bring that about. So the whole time you may be waiting on a grand sheik, or the whole time you may be waiting on one of the other faithfuls, you may have the capacity or the potential to do this thing yourself. Islam? So with that, and I'm gonna leave you with this. Sister Lamani, did you have anything else you wanted to? Okay. I'm gonna lower my measure with this. The best leaders, again, or the best success stories, are ones that are not accomplished by loners, not accomplished by those who do things by themselves. Again, I think I said this maybe 1 or 2 holy days ago. Nobody does anything by themselves. So if you have we have to, not just as a Moorish American community, but as a Asiatic community, we have to get in the habit of doing things as a collective together. And so again, that takes another degree of being humble. If all of us have great ideas, and amongst ourselves we say, we figure out that one idea is more feasible or more lucrative, and we decide to go with that idea, don't get in your feelings and be like, oh well, if they're not going to follow my idea, then I don't need to be in here, because that's not productive. We're not saying, we may not, your idea may be great, it may not be great. It may not be feasible at the time. It may be a great idea, but it may be feasible. This one has a better turnaround, because we have to start from somewhere. And who knows, you may be able to implement your idea as we progress in this one said before. That's how other nationalities do it. That's how other groups of people do it. They take this one idea and they build upon it, and this whole time while they're building the first idea, they're putting money, or they're investing in the other idea that's to come up, and they go from there. Do we think like that? Or are we like, it's either my idea or I'm gonna go somewhere else where somebody can take my idea? Just talked about that before. That's the ego. That's the lower self. That's the shadow of the lower self. That's the carnal that you don't have any control over. You gotta have control over that. Islam? All right. So, any thoughts, add-ons? Islam says. All is well? All right. With that, I'm going to lower the meeting. One of our sisters, we talk about as Moorish Americans, the alfil, or in other words, the elephant. There's a couple of animals that we have respect for. This say the least, as Moorish Americans. One is the yamel, or the camel, the al-fil, the elephant. But specifically, the elephant, because we like its might. The fact that, Tariq and Hannibal, they came across Africa and up to Europe through Spain and so on and so forth, and conquered, and this was a mighty animal and so on and so forth. But that animal itself, man, it has more principles. And in the Indian demonstration, the Hindu demonstration, it's Ganesha, which is a symbol of prosperity. So when we admire these symbols, we have to think about the spirit that it carries, and are we emulating that spirit? So when we have these medallions and these rings and so on and so forth, they carry a certain spirit, they carry a certain essence, and we often use these things as reminders or as a reflection of an attribute or a principle that we want to inherit. So are we making the steps towards that? Islam?
Allahu Akbar.
حي على الصلاة.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
حي على الصلاة.
Allahu Akbar.